Hello and welcome to Meet the Candidates on BLTV Channel 6. I'm Raymond Adcock, and on today's show, we are going to visit with District Attorney General Lisa Xavianes. Lisa was the first woman elected to the position of the 31st District Attorney General of Warren and Van Buren counties back in 2006. Lisa was born and raised on a farm in Monticello, Kentucky, the youngest of 12 children. She married Jimmy Xavianes in 1986, and together they built a restaurant business which led them to McMinnville. Lisa's the mother of 3 children, her daughter Anastasia and son-in-law Stephen Handy, 2 sons, Pano and Christos, and 1 grandson, Rush Handy. Lisa received her Bachelor of Science degree in Business Administration from Tennessee Tech in 1995. Ms. Xavianes continued her education at the Nashville School of Law, graduating in 2000 and entering private practice of law after that. Lisa's hobbies are spending time with her children, especially watching them explore their interests in sports, dance, music, and the martial arts. Also, Lisa is the president of the 31st Judicial District Child Advocacy Center, Warren County Bar Association member. Also a member of the Tennessee District Attorney General's Conference, where she has been chairman of the Public Education Committee, member of the Child Support Committee, member of the Legislative Committee, member of the Executive Committee, representative for One with Courage program, and Sovereign Citizens Working Group Committee. She's also a member of First Baptist Church and special assistant to the U.S. Attorney General of the Eastern District. Lisa's the only DA in the state to qualify herself for this position. Lisa Xavianes, welcome to the show. You are quite busy, Lisa.
Well, I've tried to make good use of all the resources I've had available to me.
Okay. Let's talk about your first term as DA here of the 31st Judicial District.
It's been a busy term. We've had a lot going on this 8 years. There were lots of cases left over from the last administration. We had to resolve those. There were, quite a lot of cases. Some of them were, I think, as old as 13 years old. So we had a huge caseload to resolve. There were lots of other issues that I felt we needed to address when I ran for office last time, and so we hit the ground running, and we've been doing that ever since.
Lisa, we've got a lot of things to talk about today. I know you brought some charts with you. We're going to ask you some questions on that. First, I want to talk to you about drugs. Let's talk about the drug problem. And you've made a point of this. It's not just meth that we have a problem with. Prescription drugs is really beginning to be a problem in this area. I know the governor, I believe, has launched some initiatives on that.
You know, the governor has. I actually went to a meeting last month. I think it was June the 19th. I went to a meeting in Cookeville to look at the governor's strategy to attack our prescription drug abuse problem. We are 3rd in the nation. Tennessee is 3rd in the nation for prescription drug abuse. We have a huge problem with that, so big so that the governor has even looked at how we attack that and how we address it. And that's one of the problems we have. But we have several other. When I first started practicing law in 2000, about from 2000 to 2004, we had a huge influx of methamphetamine.
Right.
I mean, it was basically taking over this community. We've been attacking that ever since.
You really have, and I know your opponent has made mention of the term McMinnville, and we've talked. One of the reasons that probably we're known as that is because of the fact that of all the prosecution you guys have done and the fight you've taken against meth.
Well, Jackie gave a number. It was 200 plus meth cases that he had last year. That's a lot of meth cases,
wow.
Yes. But you know, the reason we're known as McMinnville is because we have a very effective law enforcement here. They are busting methamphetamine labs. Not so much anymore. The methamphetamine lab bust is going down because that's not really what we're seeing now. Now we're seeing more of the ice. It's a methamphetamine, but it's called ice. It's brought in here through the Mexican cartel.
Wow.
So, you know, things are evolving when it comes to the drug world. Methamphetamine is still a problem. We have people addicted on it to methamphetamine. It's more difficult to get the ingredients, so therefore it's harder to, have the labs. People aren't having the labs. And so they're purchasing it from other resources.
And let's make no mistake about it, you've taken the fight to those drug dealers on the meth. I mean, you fought them hard on this. You've been a part of legislation to make it harder for them to buy these products.
I have worked aggressively to address the methamphetamine problem. We have done several major federal roundups on methamphetamine cooks here in this county and in Van Buren County. Van Buren County, we had one of the largest methamphetamine roundups that's ever hit this area. Had 21 of the worst methamphetamine cooks in a multi-jurisdictional team that worked together to get all those methamphetamine cooks out of Van Buren County. And that has a huge impact. No, it doesn't eradicate it, but you take 21 of the worst away, and it's going to have a huge impact on our methamphetamine problem. Here in Warren County, again, we worked, local agents and federal agents, state agencies work together as we do every day. And we had a roundup with 16 of the worst methamphetamine cooks in this county. This was a federal roundup. They went to federal prison.
You brought up something interesting I want to ask you about, your relationship with law enforcement. You just mentioned there, you guys work together on a daily basis.
We do, and we have to work together. In order to be effective, we've got to work together. We've worked aggressively on the methamphetamine problem. We work aggressively on the prescription drug problem. We work aggressively on the new problem that we're seeing here, which is heroin. Let's
talk about that. You mentioned there was an article in, I guess, today's Tennessean about that, and that's, I can't believe that heroin would be coming to a town this small. Why is that?
Well, you know, heroin is coming here because prescription drug abuse is our #1 drug of choice in this community, as well as in the state. And so heroin is coming because OxyContin is so difficult to get. It's expensive, and it's hard to get on the street. So they can purchase heroin at a much lower price and get the same kind of high. The Tennessean yesterday looked at last year's results. They did a survey to see how many high school children in the state of Tennessee had actually tried heroin. Last year it was 2%. This year it was 4.4%. We have to be ready to address these issues. We must stay aware that we have lots of drug problems. It takes us all. It takes me, it takes you, it takes the community as a whole to work together to address this. It can't just be the DA's office and law enforcement. We all have to work together. And that's one of the things I've been trying to do during this term, is work together. I've brought in all kinds of federal agencies to help law enforcement. I've worked to bridge any gap that we may have between other agencies and our local law enforcement. Not only have I done that, because that we must do is work together, but I've also tried to engage the public itself in helping us fight this drug addiction issue that we have.
And that's where I want to go next with this, Lisa. You've done a very good job of working with our Director of Schools, Bobby Cox, and making appearances at these local schools, trying to work on the prevention side of this, correct?
I have. You know, I am so honored and pleased to have been working with Bobby Cox. He is a very fine man who has worked hard to see that our children are safe. Him and I have joined together, and we have done multiple programs. With his assistance, I was able to do a presentation to parents about drugs, what to look for, the signs, the symptoms, which we all need to know as a parent. We need to know what we're looking at and what we see in the children's bedroom. Bobby Cox helped me get that message out. He allows me to go into the schools and talk to the children. I've been doing this now for 7 years. Every year we go in and talk to the children. We talk to them about many different issues. Drug addiction, whether that be methamphetamine, whether that be prescription drugs, synthetic drugs, whatever those drug issues that are popping their heads up in our schools, I've been allowed to go in and talk to them about it. I've also been able to talk to them about violence. Recently, Bobby Cox and I joined together and we brought Phil Chalmers, a world-renowned expert, to this community, to this district, and he spoke to both of our schools, Van Buren and Warren County schools, about bullying, drug abuse, sex abuse, different types of issues that our children face. And I wish you could have seen the kids' expression when they were listening to him speak. How often do you have 500 high school kids in a room with their hands on their chin,
Wow. At attention.
engrossed
Yeah.
in his information. It was phenomenal. So thanks to Bobby Cox, I was allowed to get him into our schools, and also he did a presentation to the parents. You know, those things are important to do.
And I attended that one, and I
attack.
appreciate you bringing Mr. Chalmers here. It was very eye-opening, very unsettling.
Of course it is. But you know, we can't stick our head in the sand.
Absolutely
We've got to
not.
look at what's around us. You know, on top of that, you know, I was fortunate enough to have public service messages donated because our local movie theater allowed me to have the
yes.
public service messages in their theater for free. That's what I'm talking about, community involvement. It takes us all. The Ben Lomond TV, they have 3 or 4 public service messages that they've been airing for years. You and I, we've done several
And I was
of
going to say
these
that,
shows.
And I appreciate you being accessible to take time out of your schedule and come on here and speak to the public on things. I do think it's important. I know you do too.
I do think it's important, and I'm going to make it part of my schedule, part of my activities that I do in this community. We all have to work together to address our addiction issues. We can't focus in a box on one issue because we have multiple issues here.
Very good stuff. We are visiting with Lisa Zavianis today on Meet the Candidates. Lisa, let's talk about your opponent. Some suggestion. He suggested that half the cases that came through your office for fiscal year 2012-2013 were dismissed. Do you have any light to shed on those numbers?
Well, you know, whether it's criminal law, civil law, whatever kind of law you practice, we're all taught in law school that you really have to pay attention to the fine print because the fine print is important. As a DA or anyone who wants to be a DA, they really must pay attention to the fine print. The information is in the details. So I looked at the information that my opponent was using. He used a report from Administrative Office of the Courts. In that report, it looks at the Tennessee District Attorney General's criminal filings and dispositions
Is
for
that
the
the report
31st
you have
Judicial
here
District.
with us?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, if you look at this report, it has some fine print at the bottom of it with an asterisk. It says, please note that these totals are the total number of counts filed rather than the number of cases filed.
Well, break that down for our viewers, counts versus cases. What does that mean to us that's not into the legal side?
Well, my opponent kept saying that I was dismissing cases. That just simply is not the way it is. He did not read the fine print, or he doesn't understand criminal law,
Okay.
or he's intentionally misinforming the public. But if you look at what a case is, I brought one of those with me today.
All right. We'll show the viewers.
This is a case.
Okay.
Okay? As you can see, this was a copy of an indictment, and I've marked out the names
Sure.
of the defendant for their privacy.
Right.
This case has in it 4 counts. Count 1, count 2, count 3, count 4. This is one case.
Okay.
This case has 2 counts of DUI. One for driving under the influence of an intoxicant. The other one for driving with a blood or breath alcohol content of 0.08 or greater. The third count is violation of financial responsibility law, which is not having insurance. The fourth count is violation of the seatbelt law. Now, in a case, you have 4 counts. This case pled to driving under the influence of an intoxicant and/or drug. Count 1. Count 2, if we went to trial and this person was convicted, would merge with count 1. So we dismiss it.
Okay.
Count 3, in this particular case, this person pled to, they received a $50 fine and court cost. Count 4 is a $10 fine. We dismissed it.
So, four counts, 2 of those dismissed on that one case, because you're going after the main count.
You're going after what they actually
Sure.
did and what is the issue that you're concerned with, which is driving under the influence of alcohol or drugs. Now, If we look at the fiscal year of 2012 and 2013,
Okay.
they were approximately 477 cases brought against a total of 546 defendants for this time period of 2012 and 2013. The vast majority of these cases resulted in conviction, whether that be plea or a guilty verdict.
So the vast majority of those. Okay.
Of those. Now let's look just in Warren County alone. 389 cases were presented to the Warren County jury. Approximately that was 458 defendants. Sometimes you have a case and it has 2 defendants in it. That can get a little confusing for some people, but
Right.
that's what that is. Almost all of these 389 cases were multi-count indictments. Just like I showed you here, this is a case with multi-counts.
Okay.
Now, if you were to count the individual charges in each indictment, one would come up with 1,867 counts that make up the 389 cases.
Well, there's a lot of difference between 1,867 and 389.
There sure is.
So that's the difference in the counts and the cases that was being brought
There
up.
sure is.
Okay. And you mentioned some of the other counties. If you were to put these numbers in for some of the other counties, that you're right in line with Van Buren, with Rutherford County, I think we looked at maybe.
If you looked at the analysis from surrounding counties.
For the surrounding counties.
And my mistaken opponent's analysis, if you took his analysis, then all those surrounding counties would be dismissing at least half of their cases if his numbers were accurate.
Mm-hmm.
For example, DeKalb County, 52% of their counts were dismissed. White County, 47% of their counts were dismissed.
Okay.
Grundy County, 54% of their counts dismissed. Let's look at, I brought you a graph.
Okay.
This is a graph from the adjoining county. It's the 13th Judicial District's graph. If you looked at it, it's very similar to ours. It says 46.1% dismissed.
And that's the big graph at the green there, 46% dismissed.
That's counts,
Okay.
not cases. It's like the difference between daylight and dark.
So that doesn't hold water with you, the things that were mentioned. You feel good about what you guys are doing.
That simply is not accurate. We have done what we need to do, which is prosecute cases aggressively.
Okay. And I was glad to know some mention had been made of the DUI task force that you've got. I was glad to know that you mentioned that was came about with a grant that you found and applied for, and we were able to get that pays for that.
You know, that's one of the things that I've done during this term is to get and find resources to help. Budget issues are always a problem. They have been a problem since I've been in office.
And will continue to be a problem.
They will. And so, you know, I have a limited budget to get assistants, support staff, even to buy paper clips in my office. Mm-hmm. We're literally monitored everything we spend. So that's one of the things I looked at. How do I get resources into our district and our community to effectively assist in making our community safe? And as I'm looking around, I found a DUI grant. Now, this is not a state grant, but it's a federal grant. And in order to receive that grant, you've got to do several things. One of those is to be able to show a need for that grant.
Okay.
And we had a huge need because, as I said at the beginning of this session today, we had a huge backlog of cases. Several of those were DUI. I mean, multiple years old. Do you know how hard it is to prosecute a DUI case when you can't find your officer?
I could imagine.
When you can't find your blood results?
So you had a backlog of stuff you were working on when you first got there.
I had approximately 295 circuit court cases set. DUI circuit court cases. That's big court.
Wow, yeah.
For trial in this district. So I looked and I found a grant, a federal grant. I wrote that grant and was successful in achieving that in 2007. We have been able to keep that grant every year. It's very important that you work hard to keep your grants. because to keep a grant, you've got to, you of course are audited every year to make sure that you're spending every penny the way you should be. But you also can only use that grant for a specific purpose. You've got to document everything that you do. So we have been successful in keeping our grant every single year. The DUI prosecutor is vital to protecting our community and making our roads safe. I'm very proud of the work he's done. When he first started, he was trying a lot of cases because, as I said, there was evidence we were looking for, and we couldn't find it. Officers were gone, witnesses were gone, so we had to try a lot of cases. But my DUI prosecutor tried those cases, did the work it took, and now he doesn't have to try many cases. The ones he has to try, you know, let's be honest, they're the tough ones.
Yeah.
Because defense attorneys understand that that's all my prosecutor does, is he does nothing but DUIs. He lives, sleeps, eats, breathes. Every time you see him, you're going to see him with some DUI book in his hand. He knows this stuff. For a matter of fact, he is so good at his DUIs that he does the training to the other DUI prosecutors in the state.
Really?
Last year, he received the President's Award from the Commissioner of Highway Safety. He's very good at what he does. We don't have to try those cases.
And I know our viewers are happy about the fact that it's not their tax dollars because you got the grant in place.
And you know, that's important, is that we look to get the resources we need, but not spend your tax dollars. I'm a taxpayer in this community. I understand that concept. Another area that I was able to expand by doing the exact same thing, looking for federal money, was a domestic abuse prosecutor.
I would think that would be very important in this district.
It is very important. If you look at the General Sessions docket on any given Tuesday, you're going to see that about 50% of those cases are domestic abuse cases. Now, domestic abuse cases has required us to take a look at what is causing those problems. And with the court, with our General Sessions judge and the cooperation of the DA's office, we've worked together to resolve some of those cases without prosecuting them.
Okay.
Because that's simply the right thing to do. Some of those cases do not include violence. Someone temper flares up, someone caused the loss.
Sure.
Law enforcement is required to arrest in most of those cases. What we do is we look at, is this a case that someone deserves to go to jail?
Okay.
Many of them are. Many of them are not. Was it just a moment that they need to learn how to control their anger? And that's why I've worked with the General Sessions Court. And we have what we call a second chance program.
How does that work, Lisa?
Well, the second chance program is only for General Sessions cases in which you've had someone who's been charged with a domestic assault or an assault case, and it involves only some type of argument. We'll allow them to go to special classes for anger management. After 90 days, if they've had no other problems, and if the victim is okay with this too, because we involve the victims in this process, and if they're okay with it too, then that case is dismissed.
Lisa, we've already talked about drugs earlier in the program, but I do want to ask you, have you looked into having a drug task force?
You know, as I said, I've looked at every resource available to get the things that we need in this community, and one of those things was to have a 31st Judicial Drug Task Force. Now, as I was looking at this, I soon realized that we already had a drug task force. We have a drug task force that includes our city police department, our sheriff's department, our TBI, and our federal agencies.
And that's operating right now?
Operates right now.
Okay.
What would I gain from having a drug task force? I wanted to see if there was a benefit. So I looked into that, and I soon realized that each of those agencies and departments would have to have a substantial amount of money to contribute to that. Now, would we gain a benefit from it? Simply, the answer is no.
Okay.
So I chose not to develop a 31st Judicial Drug Task Force because we didn't gain anything from it. It just cost us money. The only thing you gain is the DA's office micromanaging the drug task force. Is that efficient? I don't think so. We're not police officers. We're prosecutors.
So what you're saying is you feel like you're saving the taxpayers' money now and at the same time still attacking this drug problem
Actually, I do.
head on.
I do. I do think we're attacking the drug problem head on. For a matter of fact, I know we're attacking the drug problem head on. But, you know, we've had recent problems in the legislature. They're getting ready to disband every one of those judicial drug task force. The legislators have worked for the past 2 years trying to get rid of those.
Really?
So it's just not going to be something that's worth the time, effort, and energy. And I'm actually thankful that I did not take those steps necessary to develop a 31st Judicial Drug Task Force. We have what we need. It's working well. Our law enforcement is doing a great job at getting these drug cases.
All right, you're on top of it. You're also on top of the child support, #1 in the state.
We are. We started at the bottom. We're #1.
How did you do that?
Simple, hard work. I didn't get any additional resources. As I've told you, budget issues, we don't get any resources. We've just worked hard. We've trudged through them. You know, we had the largest increase in the state of Tennessee my very first year of taking office at the DA's office. We were actually increased by 24%, our collections did. That was so high that they mentioned us in Forbes magazine. We're doing something right.
And you mentioned you've got a good staff up there working with you, Faye and the crew.
You know, you're only as good as your staff, and my staff are the best. We've had a few bumps in the road through the course of 8 years, of course. Everybody does. But most of my staff have been with me the entire time that I've been there. They do a great job. I'm very proud of them, proud of the work they've done, and we'd like to continue doing that.
Speaking of which, if the voters give you another chance in office, are you and the staff ready to go for another 8 years?
We are. We've been honored to serve the citizens of this district. This is not a menial government job to me or to them. This is the future of our community, and we look at it like that every day. Every day when I get up, I am thankful. I'm thankful that I've had the opportunity to serve the people of this district. I'm thankful that I know when I go to work, my job is to simply pursue the guilty, protect the innocent, and do the right thing. So I've been honored to serve as your district attorney for the past 8 years. I ask for your vote to allow me to continue to serve on August the 7th. Thank you.
Have you enjoyed the campaign trail so far this year?
I have enjoyed the campaign trail, and so have my children. We've been out to horse farms, we've been out to people's gardens, we've been throughout this entire district in both counties, and we're having a great time. We're enjoying seeing everybody, people I hadn't seen for a long time. You know, my friends, I don't see them on a regular basis because they don't come to court, which is a great thing.
Yeah.
So I've enjoyed getting to see everybody.
Well, Lisa, if the voters put you in another term, please keep on being accessible to us out here in the public so that we can find out what you guys are into. You do a great job coming on BLTV and keeping the viewers enlightened on what's happening.
Well, thank you, Raymond. I appreciate all you've done for us in the past 8 years, allowing us to get out those important messages, helping me to be accessible. I just really appreciate that. It takes both of us. Thank you.
All right, just about a minute left. Anything you would like to say to the voters before we head on out of here?
Well, as I said earlier, I've been honored to serve as your DA. I have worked hard. I have prosecuted these cases aggressively. I've taken our child support to the best in the state. And I also have been instrumental in bringing a new Children's Advocacy Center to fight against child abuse. We've worked on multiple prevention programs. We've done lots of things during this 8-year term to make this community safe. I would like to continue doing that. Thank you so much for the opportunity to serve, and I appreciate your vote.
Thanks again, Lisa. That is your District Attorney, Lisa Zavianis, District Attorney General for the 31st Judicial District, which includes Warren and Van Buren counties. She has been our guest today on Meet the Candidates. I'm Raymond Adcock, and until next time, we'll see you right back here on BLTV Channel 6.